Oh mate, what's going on here? What a mess. We've got fuel everywhere. Okay guys, we're going to start off with a quick tech tip. This could be on many vehicles, but specifically for those with Toyota Land Cruiser LC120 or LC150, Land Cruiser Prado, 1KD FTV. This doesn't apply for the petrol engine, the V6s, the 1GR. It doesn't apply for the 1KZ. They don't have this fuel filter, but for all the mechanics that have been changing the wrong filter, you know, this is something we could probably mention as well, because so many people that have come in or I've spoken to and they've had their fuel filter changed every 20,000 Ks as per the book, but the technicians don't even know about the one underneath the vehicle, which is the one that's meant to be changed every 20,000. They've been changing the one under the bonnet every 20,000, which is, it's not the worst thing, but you're sort of overdoing it a bit. You sort of don't need to do that. It's a bit of a waste. So what's happened here? No, we're not messy changing filters. This never happens. But what we didn't do this time is maybe we're getting a bit too relaxed or a bit lazy or we forgot. But if the fuel tank's full, well, I don't know how full it needs to be for this to happen, but once the fuel tank, there's no pressure there. Well, I've never experienced pressure and rarely do you experience this. But if the fuel tank's full, what we'll do later in the video, if I remember, I always say, you know, disclosure, if I remember, later in the video, we'll have a look at the fuel gauge and see how full it is. But if you're going to change this rear fuel filter and the tank's really full, which I reckon it's really full, but I can't tell you how full it needs to be. But all I'll say is if you're going to come to us at the Prado Hospital for any sort of service with a 1KD FTV, please do not fill up your fuel tanks anytime soon before you're coming in, because basically what happens, we take this fuel filter off and it just keeps running. And yeah, we didn't have the drain tray there because it's normally only a couple of drips. We've demonstrated on other videos, but we've mentioned it probably not enough. So I'm making a point of saying, whether it's me, you, or someone else, please don't fill up your 1KD FTV before you take it for a service. And that filter needs to be changed every 20,000 Ks. We haven't talked about that for a little while, have we? We've been busy on other stuff, making it really boring for you. So let's take a look at that fuel filter. And just, you know, it's a little bit wet up there. So that's because, yeah, fuel's sort of running everywhere. Yeah, so the other important tip is, right, so the first one is not to fill your tank. The other one is, this one's not too bad. It's a bit dusty. It's been in the outback. You can see a bit of outback. So they've given a bit of a clean up, but it could be one of those ones where you pay someone and you say, hey mate, give this one a really good clean up, and you pay a couple $100, but they still don't really get underneath and do what needs to be done. I've said it in other videos, I'm not going to go on about it too much, but just enough as to say, this needs to be really clean so we can operate those orange clips. They look cleaner now because we've just cleaned them and used them and all that sort of thing. There is another fuel filter at the front, so I'm not too concerned about contamination, but I would prefer, for the ease of the clips going on and off, and to not have contamination going in there as well. We like to keep things clean, and we of course don't like dirt showers and all that as well. So if it's an every 20,000 service, you know what, for the Prado Hospital, any service, please make sure the vehicle's clean underneath. Let us help you avoid problems by having it clean. If that's caked in mud, we won't change the fuel filter. We will just say, look, you're gonna have to bring it back another time clean. We can clean it, but then we've got water and mud dripping off, or water, you know, so we can't really just be charging an extra half an hour cleaning time to get under there. So the best option is, because you can't get a pressure washer up there and you don't need pressure, you come back from a trip, so you got the muffler here. Like many other places, you get your garden hose and you reach in with your arm, see, side of the vehicle here, get down on your knees, reach under, past the muffler with that nozzle above the tail shaft, straight up on that angle there, see? I'm at the driver's side between the muffler, and just squirt water all around everywhere until it starts running out clean. And you'll know that up there is pretty clean, because we really do need it clean. You can imagine fuel system, there's a reason there's a filter there, and it's not so we take it off and let all the dirt go up the line, because if dirt goes up the line from here, that can mess with your fuel transfer system, and often that will be the cause of the problem, not the design of the vehicle. It's not a problem. Somebody said in a video, on a comment recently, oh, all these, what do they call it? I'm not going to repeat the words, all these crap heap cars, they're all got problems, all these cars that come to you. But the cars that come to us have got basically no problems, or very little problems. All the problems they got are caused by people. That's why we work on what we work on there. Some of the most awesome vehicles, reducing our workload, but we're doing preventative maintenance most of the time and giving you tips and tricks on how to avoid problems like this right here, right? So make sure it's clean. Whoever's changing it, please don't fill the tank up too much. And that will help if we decide, you know, if you've got a 120 and that fuel filler hose there is hard. Obviously, if it's less than half full and we need to change that, that's helpful, because if it's full, you can imagine what would happen. See the top of the tank, see the hose, it's not at the top, it's, You know, it's a little way down, isn't it? So if there's a lot of fuel in the tanks, so that's best done less than half full, and we haven't had an issue. Just to add a little bit more to the video, we'll just say it has been in the Outback, and once again you can see this is what we see a lot of, the KO2s. They are reliable for the Outback, they're grippy on the tracks, and they're certainly not the best on road, but we don't have the issues with them that some people describe. But we're not going to make this a KO2 video. Right, just having a look around, this is all clean. It's done 180k, thereabouts. It's a VX, it's got the KDSS, right? So standard suspension at this stage is all it's needed. Right, having a look around. 180k, yeah, you know, these cars, they've all got problems, haven't they? Look at it, it's just got oil leaks everywhere. Not. Look at it. Bloody problems, mate. Nearly 200,000 k's, you're dreaming, mate. They've all got problems. All the people that bring the cars to you all got problems. Well, that's what you'd normally think with a workshop, but I completely don't understand that comment. Suspension, original suspension, overdue now. I'd say long overdue, but once again, let's get in there. You can see how good those bushes are, right? Look how good they are for 180k. Normal bit of, you know, weepage of greasy, oily stuff on the ball joints, and then of course the dust sticks to it as it does there, and because some people grease there, whatever, that's, you can do that if you like, I don't care. I think it doesn't help. Usual little bit of a sweat on the bottom of the rack boot. There's a little bit of coolant stain there we see, so we'll check for the water pump leaking. I hope not, because I reckon, I don't know, but I believe we probably did the BFE at 150k, so could be just an old stain or whatever. So we'll have a good look if the water pump's leaking or not. Maybe not at the moment, because there's a lot of bash plates and things in the way, so we need to probably have a look from the top. We'll just have a sneaky look while we're having a look. Yeah, no, it's probably just an old bit of stain or something. Anyway, we'll have a look at that. KO2s. Anyway, it's pretty boring inspection. Yeah, these vehicles, oh, they've just got so many problems, haven't they, you know? 200,000 k's. Do you remember back when 200,000 k's was a lot of k's? Now they're just sort of just run in at 200,000 k's. So anyway, all the bushes, because of the KDSS, this is a positive of the KDSS, if you're leaving your suspension standard. See how there's a lot less cracking and twisting in these bushes than the others at 180k? Have you noticed? Right, you can see that one. I'm going to get and show you. See the, I'm going to get the light right and the camera right in a minute. Since you hung around, I'm going to try and get it right. And then we're going to finish up. Okay, if I can get the light. It's very difficult. Anyway, there's a tiniest little crack starting, but at 180k, because of the KDSS, this is a positive. I'm going to give you a positive because I'm not a fan of it, because of, you know, it just gets in the way of lifting vehicles and having more clearance and that sort of thing. But then you don't have to lift the vehicle. You've got, in this one, you've got the high button, you've got diff lock, rear diff locks and stuff like that. Other features that give it the capability, but the positive of a big fat sway bar, this is a big fat sway bar, right? Which is awesome for on-road because it reduces or stops the body roll, so it makes the handling really awesome. And this sort of releases to give it more flex off-road. So not a bad setup. We're not going to make it a suspension video either, but if you've got one of these, I suggest keeping the mods to a minimum. If I had one of these, I'd be looking around for someone that got a new one that's upgraded their suspension and they're giving away these or selling them cheap to get some OE, original equipment, in there. If you can't find them, then just change the front struts. The spring, you might want to raise it just a little bit to compensate something a bit more heavy duty for the ARB bull bar, because of course you would have lost height at the front. This spring isn't designed to hold a bull bar. So slight upgrade in at the rear. You don't change anything, you just put a fresh set of shockers in, leave the airbags there. And the older airbags, they needed upgrading around 7 or 8 years. They started to deteriorate, but I think Toyota improved the rubber and stuff like that, and they seem to be lasting longer in the 150. So it's a wait and see situation. Subscribe, turn the bell on, so that you can find out when we recommend to change that. But I don't see any issues here and problems like people speak of. If we're changing injectors, it's a preventative thing. If people have been listening for years and from the start, they didn't waste their money and get their fuel contamination every 40,000 k's by getting the pipes bent back. They saved the money on all the labour, and therefore what they saved from at 40 and 80 and 120 and 160, then shortly after with 160, somewhere between 160 and 200, they can spend all that in one hit and get brand new injectors instead of just contamination to their injectors and paying labour multiple times. They're only going to pay labour once and keep things running well. Anyway guys, there's nothing to see here. This is another boring video of a 150 Prado 1KD that's done 180,000 k's, including a recent Outback trip, and boring. Gotta go. Like I said, subscribe, like it if you learnt something, and Remember, don't fill up that tank and keep it clean. Now, I'm not saying he's done a bad job here. You can see it's been out there, the dust sticks to the grease, but I'm just not sure. It obviously hasn't been in muddy stuff. This might have had a bit of a clean, but it could do with more of a clean. And we'll, of course, clean up that bit of mess there so that nobody thinks it's a oil leak or anything like that. We'll give it a good wash down, which, again, just takes a bit of time, but we'll take care of it. Thanks for watching. See ya.